Good morning, everyone. I'm here this morning to talk about our new anti-inflammatory diet. I'm going to be sharing a lot of really interesting stuff that's been about 2 years in the making for me. I've been doing a lot of studying, and as you know, I have an extensive background in nutrition and wellness, and I'm going to talk about our new anti-inflammatory diet. Good morning, Julie. Um, like I said, this is 2 years in the making. It's from a lot of studying with influences from Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mercola, and Dr. Stephen Gundry, and as well as my own experience. And with this nutrition program, we are really literally curing so many diseases or making them significantly better where people are just unbelievably improving their lives, from skin conditions to high blood pressure. We're making leaps and bounds in kids with autism and ADHD, um, high cholesterol, chronic fatigue, Lyme, any of these conditions, anything that's caused by inflammation, we are able to fix. Good morning, Helen. And it comes from a diet that has not really been heard of by most people. I know I've discussed paleo and I've discussed intermittent fasting and I've discussed keto, but this is completely different in a lot of ways. And it really is counterintuitive from what we've been taught about nutrition, about healthy whole grains and how to lower cholesterol and what we should be eating. And believe me, this is all backed by science, and it's backed by medical studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals. And this is not just opinion, but this is stuff that's been proven. And I'm really excited to share with you about this diet. Good morning, Bernadette. So, the diet. Okay, I'm on keto too. I'm down 38 pounds. Yeah, keto is great. So let's start with that, and feel free to answer some questions, to ask some questions rather. So the problem with the keto diet, it's not something that your body is meant to maintain. In other words, ketosis is not a state that your body should be in for very long. In fact, Dr. Mercola, when he originally wrote his book, The Keto Fast, he was in ketosis for very long periods of time and actually became very ill. And he's pretty much the authority on ketogenic diets. And the problem with that is that our body, even though ketones can be healthy for our body and our brain, they're not meant to be maintained for long periods of time. So now I also endorse ketosis, but it's only should be done in short bursts. In other words, you want to be in ketosis maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you do that. But it's not something that you should maintain. So the hallmark of my diet is based on something called lectins, and lectins are plant proteins that are actually poisons. They're poisons to insects and they're poisons to us as well, even though we eat them all the time. Now, lectins are produced by plants, and they're usually found in the skin and the seeds of many plants. And it's the plant's protective mechanism of not being eaten, right? So if you're a plant and you're just sitting there and you're not moving around, correct? How are you surviving, right? How are you preventing yourself from surviving? Well, the way plants survive are by producing these toxins called lectins. So when certain insects eat lectins, an example from a plant, they actually have become paralyzed. It paralyzes their neurologic system. And these lectins, even though they don't paralyze us, they are very toxic to our bodies, and they are probably the main cause of leaky gut syndrome. And if you look at the medical research, leaky gut syndrome is actually the main cause of almost every disease known to man, including heart disease, high cholesterol, autism, There's just a big study that showed that most of the symptoms of autism are coming from a leaky gut or a bowel that's not working properly. And this program is based on fixing your bowel first, and then everything falls into place. So if you have autoimmune hypothyroid disease, if you have any autoimmune disease, whether it's lupus, MS, you must start by working on the gut. And the way you do that is through diet. And so these lectins, what they do is they actually break down the barrier between the bloodstream and the gut, and they cause what's called a leaky gut. And that allows food particles and toxins to get into our system. And some of these lectins actually can mimic our hormones and cause our hormones to be disrupted. So what I start with is what's a lectin-free diet. So what are the main lectins? A lot of the big ones, you're going to be very surprised. So what we call nightshade vegetables, which are tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers. The skins and the seeds of these things are actually toxic to our body, and they cause leaky gut and cause us to feel sick and gain weight. If you look at populations called blue zones of people that live over 100, when we study these populations, these people, when they eat these types of foods, for example, tomatoes, if you look at populations in Italy, that how they prepare their tomatoes, they always peel and de-seed their tomatoes because they know that these lectins cause problems with their stomachs. And if you see how a lot of Italians prepare their peppers, they roast them and then they peel the skin off, right? And you take the seeds out. So those are examples. Also, lectins are found in beans and rice, especially specifically brown rice. And if we were told that brown rice is healthy for us, but it's the hull actually contains a lectin. And if you look at most populations that live very long time, they all eat white rice because the white rice removes the lectin. Now, these populations didn't know about lectins because we barely knew about them, but they knew that when they ate those foods, they didn't feel well. So that's one of the hallmarks of the diet. The second hallmark is what I said, is concentrating on the gut by eating what's called prebiotic foods and resistant starches. So let me talk a little bit about what resistant starches are, and I'm going to scroll down and see if there's any questions here. Hey, good morning, Mike and Joe Mack. So, and Jody. So let's look at what resistant starches are. Resistant starches are foods that are resistant to the breakdown of stomach acid and are actually food for what I call our gut bugs or gut bacteria. So certain foods like sweet potato, plantains, these are what's called resistant starches. Now, the great part about these is that you can eat these and they don't get broken down to sugar. If I can tell you one thing, and one thing only if you remember from this, is that sugar is what causes almost every disease known to man. Besides infectious disease, but even that so much because infectious diseases are caused by a suppressed immune system most of the time. And when we eat sugar and processed foods, we actually break down the mucosal barrier that protects our gut lining from filtering out toxins. So this is a very important point. So when you eat these things, it really becomes toxic to our body, and sugar is the main culprit. So here's another thing to take away. Sugar that's in fruit. As far as your gut bacteria goes, which is the most important thing in your health, is your gut bacteria. And all of the new studies in cardiovascular health, in mental health, are all geared around the gut. In fact, they're feeling that most depression and anxiety comes from gut disruption and not the other way around. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So it's very exciting that we found these lectins, and to me, it's been the missing piece of the puzzle, because I've had so many people that have gone gluten-free, casein-free, and they get somewhat of an improvement, but they never really totally get there, and that's because we're still eating other lectins. Other big lectins, corn and soy, which are fed to almost all of our animals that we eat. So if you're even fish are eating, if they're farm raised, soy and corn-based diets. So if you're trying to avoid lectins, you have to also avoid these meats that are being fed corn and soy. Here's a tidbit of information. It's probably going to surprise you that most of the Tums that is produced in this country is used to feed cows. And the reason for that is that cows are not meant to eat corn and soy, and they end up having severe indigestion from eating these foods. And they actually have tons of inflammation and tons of indigestion, and they're actually fed Tums with their food. So when you eat these products, these meats, you're actually getting exposed to these lectins, and the lectins are breaking down your immune system, causing leaky gut, which now causes autoimmune disease, inflammation, cardiovascular inflammation. Lectins could, like I said, also mimic thyroid hormone and cause disruptions in your thyroid. So all of these things are happening and causing these problems. So step one is removing lectins from your diet. And we have a whole program designed in 3 phases to take care of this issue. Now, that doesn't mean you can't eat lectins forever. What it means is you have to learn how to work with these lectins by preparing them a certain way. So, for example, if you have an Instapot, you can destroy lectins or most lectins through pressure cooking. Now, the one lectin or few of the lectins are the wheat-based lectins. I'm sure you've all heard of gluten because almost everything is labeled gluten-free nowadays. Gluten is just one of many lectins, and we know what gluten could do to people who are sensitive to it. So when you remove the lectins from the diet, you remove inflammation. And I've noticed in my patients, within a matter of 2 weeks, their inflammatory symptoms are going away. They're sleeping better. If you have brain fog or if you have irritable bowel syndrome, these symptoms go away because you're removing the lectins from the diet. And if you have an Instapot, you can cook these lectins and get rid of them. But certain lectins like gluten and other wheat-based lectins, specifically one called WGA, which is wheat germ agglutinin, which was one of the most toxic lectins out there. And this is found in all the healthy whole wheat products that we've been promoted to eat. Now, if you go to the American Heart Association website and the American Dietary Association, you'll see that they very covertly removed all of their healthy whole wheat, healthy grain recommendations. And that's because grains are very, very inflammatory, and they actually produce these lectins. And when we're eating those, we're causing leaky gut, and we're causing ourselves and our children to get sick. So it's very, very important that you eliminate these things from your diet. Now, the second step is to replenish. So when you have a leaky gut and your bowels are not functioning properly, your immune system is suppressed, you're not absorbing vitamins and minerals, the level of water in your body is affected, and it affects your brain. There's actually what's known as the gut-brain connection. And the gut-brain connection is a connection between your vagus nerve, which comes from your brain, to your gut. And we all thought that your brain sends signals to your gut, which it does. But the latest studies show that for every 1 fiber that goes from your brain to your gut, there's 7 that go from your gut to your brain. So this is fascinating because it shows that your gut is actually more in control of your brain than your brain is. So when you're eating these foods and you have bad gut bacteria or dysbiosis or leaky gut, these bacteria are actually sending signals to your brain that are making you crave carbohydrates because that's what they need to survive. So if you don't give these bacteria, these gut bugs, the food that they need to survive, then they die, and then you could start replacing with the good bacteria. So I have a question. Can we pressure cook gluten-free pasta, or it must be a specific brand? Okay, so gluten is one of the lectins that is not broken down by pressure cooking. So So the answer to your question is you cannot pressure cook gluten-free pasta, because most of the time it's gonna contain oats or corn or soy, and a lot of times those aren't broken down. Corn and soy are toxic. They're not meant to be eaten. Corn is the staple of almost all of our diets because it's fed to everything. And it's not what you eat, but it's what you ate, if that makes sense. So in other words, if you're eating cows, then your health is dependent on what that cow was fed. So you want to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, or free range. You got to be careful with, but pasture-raised meats. And we eat way too much protein in this country as well. So that's why if you're doing a paleo type diet, protein also gets converted to sugar. So if you're going to eat foods, your foods should contain mostly carbohydrates coming from vegetables and healthy fats. Those should be your priority of your energy sources. And then you could add some healthy protein. Shellfish are great, especially the wild caught shellfish, so shrimp, small fish, lobster, mollusks like clams, mussels, all great stuff. Calamari, all of these things are great. And you don't have to be afraid of frying these things as long as you don't bread them. In fact, Dr. Gundry, who's one of the leading cardiologists in the country, and wrote the book, The Plant Paradox, which is has been a big influence in my career, says that the main purpose of food should be to shove as much olive oil into your system as possible. So there's a lot of things that you can eat that are delicious and great for you, but they actually will decrease inflammation in your body. And if you decrease inflammation in your body, you can get rid of almost every single disease. So our program starts with a 3-day detox, and you're going to completely get rid of these lectins. And almost immediately, you're going to start feeling better. Then as we move on, we're into phase 2. We start working with some of the lectins, but we figure out a way of getting rid of them through pressure cooking or special preparations like peeling the skin and de-seeding them. So there's a lot of things you can eat. We have a complete comprehensive list. And after you do that, we start restoring the body. So we replace vitamins and minerals that you've been lacking. Because unfortunately, the soil in this country is not loaded with vitamins and nutrients. So whereas I used to think that we get all of our vitamins and minerals from food, you need to supplement. And that's because the soil is depleted from all its vitamins because of all the pesticides that have been sprayed. So that's an important point. Next, we start restoring the gut bacteria by eating these prebiotic foods like vegetables and resistant starches. And then we start replacing probiotics and good yeast and good bacteria. And when we do that and eliminate all the sugar, your leaky gut goes away. So these junctions that were leaky and loose become tight, and now your body is able to get rid of those toxins. And this allows your body to heal itself, which is one of the most important points as well, is that your body has an incredible ability to heal itself. And until you fix your body's immune system, you will never get better. So if you have a condition and you're taking all these medications and you don't treat the gut, you're chasing your own tail. So that's the basis of our program. I'm really excited about it. We're making leaps and bounds, especially with the kids. I have a few kids that are just really making great progress in speech and their ADHD. I have adults where their thyroid antibodies are going back down to almost zero, and they're coming off thyroid medication. I have patients where their cholesterol is shockingly low and lower than it was, and their doctors are taking off their cholesterol medications. This is an incredible program, and like I said, it took me 2 years to create. So today and this weekend, if you saw our post, I'm offering a special. You can get started with us for just $75. We offer, you'll get phase 1. You'll get a free consultation that's included with that with myself or Dr. Dugal. It's about 10 minutes, and we'll introduce you to the program. You'll get an extensive handout that shows everything that you can eat, and you will really be surprised at how you feel. Phase 2 is about at least 6 weeks. And by the time you finish phase 2, I guarantee you, if you're on medication, you'll be ready to come off of it. If you're experiencing sleep issues, brain fog, fatigue, it will be gone. If you could follow this program for 6 weeks, and it's not difficult, we can work around the summer and barbecues and things like that. It's not difficult. But if when you get to phase 2, you will start feeling more amazing than you've ever felt in your life. And the reason we do it for 6 weeks is because it takes 6 weeks to form a good, healthy habit. So at the end of those 6 weeks, you'll be so used to eating that way that it's not going to bother you anymore. I've been doing it. As you know, I take very good care of myself. And on this program, in the last 4 weeks, I've lost 15 extra pounds. I have the lowest body fat that I've had since I'm 30 years old, and I'm 47 years old. So this is something that's obtainable, sustainable, and you can do it. There's a lot of great foods like cheeses, specific cheeses you could eat, a lot of nuts, and a lot of delicious foods, olives, and all kinds of great vegetables. We have tons of recipes and menus. So if you want to change your health, or if you have a loved one that has an autoimmune disease, or you know a child who has autism or ADHD, and show them this video, share this video, because we are changing lives. I'm telling you, I've been doing nutrition-based medicine for 22 years now. Started as a personal trainer, working my way through medical school. And this is the most incredible find that I've seen. And it's something that you're not going to hear a lot about. But when you do this program and this anti-inflammatory program, you are going to be amazed at the results. So if you're interested, write a comment, tell us that you want to get started, and we'll send you out phase 1, and we'll start you with, or we'll set up your 10-minute consult to talk it over with me, get you started. And we also have a free text messaging service. So when you're on the program and you have questions, free of charge, you get to ask our experts questions about foods or issues that you're having, and we walk you through the program. So I'm really excited about this, folks. I'm telling you, people are really, really, really changing their lives, and I'm so excited to be involved in this. And please share this video with your loved ones and get them on the road to health. Have a happy and healthy weekend, everybody. We'll see you soon.